Flip, the power of a discipling relationship. I mean, imagine what would happen if each of us could do for one person what we wish we could do for everyone. This is what Flip is about. I believe we can flip the entire world upside right. We see each other as conduits for goodness, pouring into one what we want to pour into everyone. Amen. Today is our last day. It's part 4 of our series, Flip. And I've been excited because this is so crucial to expanding the kingdom of God. If you're new to the church scene or you're just checking us out, you might be thinking, well, how can I flip another life? What I would love for you to hear throughout this series, what I'd love for you to hear today, is that this thing called church, or scratch that, this thing called Christianity, actually, scratch that, this thing called Jesus is all about relationship. You're not walking into an organization or a company or an institution. Jesus is calling you into relationship with him. It's not a religion about rules and do's and don'ts. You don't have to impress God with anything you've done. In fact, he knows you better than you know yourself. He knows the stuff you haven't messed up on. And he has said, I love you. Last week, we talked about the idea of a spiritual friendship. We talked about Jesus and Peter's relationship. And if you remember, Jesus said to Peter, Peter, when you turn back, in other words, I know you're about to mess up. I know you're going to betray me. You haven't done it yet, but when you come back, I'll be here. This is the kind of thing we're inviting you into at Newday. If you're new here, I hope the one thing you hear, if you are new to the church scene, I hope the one thing you come to believe is that Jesus is an open arm relationship. You can come no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, and no matter where you think you're going. It is an invitation into relationship. That's what Christianity is all about. That's what following Jesus is about. That's what our mission is to develop passionate Christ followers. Well, there's no such thing as passion without people. Passion is the relationship between two people. We want passionate Christ followers, followers who are excited about Jesus because of what Jesus has done for them. I'm so excited that Step 7 is here today because I know there are people in here that understand what it means, fully understand what it means for God to rescue you, for God to restore you, for God to bring you back, like he said to Peter, when you turn back. In other words, he knew Peter's coming back. He also knew Peter was going to mess up. And he knew he was coming back. We talked about spiritual friendship, which is one aspect of our discipling relationship, but it's also the foundation of a discipling relationship. If you've missed any part of our series, I encourage you to go online, go on YouTube, look up Newday Adventist Church, and you'll see our entire Flip series there. While you're there, if you might do me a favor, just hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any other series that we're doing. And if you really like it, actually, even if you don't like it, share it with a friend. Let us know how we can help. Here's what I want you to do. Here's what I want you to think. The last few weeks, we've been thinking about this idea of a discipling relationship. And right now, I want you to start thinking about the person God is going to put on your heart to flip. I want you to start thinking about the person you're going to enter into a relationship with. We've talked about 3 aspects of that kind of relationship. We've talked about Mordecai's relationship with Esther, which was a mentoring relationship. We've talked about Jonathan and David, which had a sponsoring relationship. And then we talked about Jesus and Peter, which was spiritual friendship. Mordecai's relationship is a mentoring one in which he mentored Esther to live up to the greatness that was inside of her. We said that each and every one of us need a Mordecai, that we are one Mordecai away from greatness. That just one Mordecai in our lives will help us remember that we are called to be great. Each of us also need a Jonathan. A Jonathan relationship is one that sponsors you. A sponsor is someone who says, I'm not going to lift me up, I'm going to lift you up. In fact, I'm going to put me aside in order to make sure you succeed. That's a sponsoring relationship. Then we talked about spiritual friendship between Jesus and Peter. And you saw Jesus making room for Peter's flaws, making rooms for Peter's imperfections, making room for Peter to fall and come back. But it's through prayerful support. That all of us need people that are praying for us, that are crying out to God for us, that are relying on God to help us through. That was spiritual friendship. We also saw Jesus challenge Peter to live up to what he was called to be. The last aspect of our discipling relationship is the key. It's the hardest part. It's the part most of us don't know how to do. But it's the one part that makes a discipling relationship different than any other type. It is a multiplying relationship. A discipling relationship doesn't just stay between two people, it invites others in. A discipling relationship isn't satisfied when two of us are getting this thing right and two of us really have figured it out and two of us are supporting each other. A discipling relationship is carried out when the two of us go, man, this thing is so great. We've got to bring someone else in his. And the call of Jesus is to make more disciples. The reason why we exist as a church is to make more disciples. Our mission is to make more disciples. The reason why you have been called to Christianity is to make more disciples. If you're not even a Christian yet, maybe you're in here or you're watching online, the only reason why you're here is because you're called to bring someone else in. The whole reason why the kingdom of God exists is to expand, not to shrink. It's not meant to stay content. It's meant to grow. It's meant to multiply. We are not in the addition game. We are in the multiplication game. We exist to make more disciples. If we ever get content with the group of 150, 170, 180 who hang out with each other every Saturday, we have failed. Our job as a church, as people, is to bring as many more people into the kingdom of God. We are here to make disciples. That's our mission. That's why we exist. And that's the church I see. The church I see is the best place in the Denver metro area for anyone on a spiritual journey. The church I see in the future, it is the best place for anyone on a spiritual journey. If you're in the Denver metro area, I want you to think Newday the minute you find, man, there's this person at work who's been asking me a bunch of questions. I'm going to bring them to Newday. I want Newday to be the first place anyone visits who's on a spiritual journey. I want Newday to be the last place anyone has to visit before they make it home. Our church is meant to multiply, not divide. Multiply. And the relationship I want us to look at today is found in 2 Timothy, verse 1. It's the relationship between Paul and Timothy. I want you to hear Paul's heart for Timothy. Listen to this. This is him writing a personal letter to Timothy. Now, if you're Gen Z or Generation Alpha, let's say he sent a text message or hit him up on his TikTok or IG. But this is the way people used to communicate. It took a very long time. It didn't take a few seconds, and there was no such thing as ghosting. But imagine you get this text message. This is what it says. This is Paul. He's a follower of Jesus, and he's talking to Timothy. He's this young guy who Paul sees a lot of potential in, and he sends him this text. I thank God, whom I serve as my ancestors did, with a clear conscience. Immediately, I hope you're hearing through Paul's language the idea of multiple generations. Do you hear that? I thank God as my ancestors did. I thank God because I'm the result of generations that came before me. I thank God whom I serve as my ancestors did with a clear conscience. As night and day, I constantly remember you in my prayers. Do you see that spiritual friendship? The prayerful support? He's saying, look, I can tell you with a clear conscience, I've been praying for you. I can tell you with a clear conscience, I've been thinking about you. Not just one moment or a second. I've been thinking about you night and day. You see, for us, I think those of us who follow Jesus, when we are praying for people, we might remember them sometime. But Paul says, I'm thinking about you all the time. And I think our biggest issue, can I be honest with you? I think our biggest issue in trying to create prayerful support for people is that we try to do it for 6 people, for 8 people, for 10 people. You try to remember everybody in prayer. Guess what? Not possible. But what if you just thought of one person? What if you took this amount of time and intensity for just one person? Created spiritual friendship, created room for prayerful support so that one person was on your mind constantly. Do you know how you feel when someone remembers you? Do you remember that? I remember I was in seminary at Andrews University, and my wife and I were up there, and I remember we had talked to this professor about our lives, our marriage. We were buying a home at the time. And then we had just kind of left. He said, I'll pray for you. And, you know, in Christian circles, I'll pray for you is the prayer. Can we be honest? Hey, man, that's really tough. I won't pray for you. I just prayed. That was the prayer. That was it. And often I don't come back to it. I don't remember it. I prayed for you. And so for me, because I know that now, when someone says something, I say, let me pray for you right now. I'm going to take the extra step, and at least we'll actually do a prayer right now. But he stayed, and he prayed with us. The professor prayed with us, prayed with Tiffany and I. We really appreciate that he prayed with us. Probably a year and a half later, we went back for something. He sees us in the hall, and he goes, Jose, Tiffany, how's the house? I've been praying. We immediately felt known, loved. Imagine a church where every person has one person praying for them. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine being part of a community that when someone says, I'll pray for you, you know they're actually spending the time to pray for your business, to pray for your kids, to pray for your marriage, to pray for the difficulty you're going through. Imagine a place where you knew people cared enough to talk to God about you. The problem we have is that we have pastors. That's our biggest problem in Christianity. I tell you, one day I pray. One day, I'm not there yet, guys, but one day I pray to be a member, not a pastor. And I'll preach for free. This way, when you give me an idea, I say, let's do it, instead of I'll do it. The problem with pastors is that the church has sent all of its desires of what it would like to do to the pastor. It has outsourced. We should do this. Pastor, we should do this. Oh, so-and-so's in pain. Pastor, you should visit them. Oh, sister so-and-so needs a help or this. You know what? Let's call the pastor. That's our problem with Christianity. Now, the good thing at Newday is that doesn't exist. And usually I'm lying when I say that. But at Newday, it's the truth. I know there are people here who never actually call me because they have someone that they can call that's not on the pastoral team. I'm grateful to be part of a church that when someone has a baby, I know food is being taken to them. When someone's in the hospital, I know they're being visited. I'm so excited to be part of a church community that when one of our youth are in trouble, there are other parents supporting that parent. I am grateful that I'm part of a place where relationship matters. So my prayer at Newday is not that this starts happening, but that this multiplies. My dream is not that we start doing this, but that we multiply it so that there's not one person that calls Newday home that doesn't have that. My dream is that anyone who says they're part of Newday, they have a person that can pray with them. They have a person that can support them. They have a person that will mentor them. That's my dream. Paul says, listen, night and day I constantly remember you in my prayers, recalling your tears. Listen to the recall. You see this? I remember we talked about the pain. Recalling your tears, I long to see you. Woo! So that I may be filled with joy. I enjoy our time together. That's a mentoring relationship. Not only is it spiritual friendship, but we're spending time. We're connecting together. When I spend time with you, I know it takes away your pain and it brings me joy. Isn't that amazing? I see it in the room. I see the faces of those who've experienced this, who knows, oh, yeah, when Elise and I got together, it was crazy. I was going through the worst part of my life, and then all Elise said is, girl, I'm here for you. And I was like, oh, wow. I see it in your faces. Most of you have experienced this in some way. My dream is that all of you do. Every one of you. I am reminded, verse 5, of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you also. You hear this? Generations. It didn't start with you, Timothy. It started with your grandmother. She passed it on to your mother. Your mother passed it on to you. I see it in you. It's a multiplication. It's moving from one person to the next who brings another in. So now we see Paul talking to Timothy as a mentor, as Mordecai did with Esther. You see Paul saying, I know who you are. I see who you are. I am persuaded. I'm persuaded this lives in you. I know who you are. This is what Mordecai did for Esther. This is what a mentoring relationship does. The mentoring relationship is, there are 4 letters. I see in you. I see in you. I see in you. Here's what I see in you. That's what a mentor relationship requires. It's saying, hey, look, I know you're down. I know this, but I see this in you. I've been blessed here at Newday to have a couple of mentors pour into me. And I love it because often I'm going through some stuff. I have all these things on my mind. And then they'll go, Jose, you're a great leader. I know right now you don't feel like it, but you're a great leader. And I know you're going to become the leader we've all seen in you. That encourages me. That excites me. I love that. I have that relationship with my pastoral staff. Pastor Molly over there is sitting over there. Pastor Molly will text me randomly, and she'll go, "Hey, Curry." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" "Yeah, man, you're like Steph Curry. You're like the best lead pastor I know." I'm glad I have people around me that when I feel down, it comes at the right moment. I want that for everyone at New Day. I want everyone to have someone that reminds them, you are a child of God. You are doing well. I don't know about you, but lately we've experienced this barrage of unkindness in our world. Restaurants have to put up, "Hey, please be kind. They actually came to work today." Hello? You've seen that? You guys have seen it. For some reason, COVID, the pandemic, the internet, going virtual, people just forgot what it meant to be kind to people. So you know what I've started doing? I've gone on a mission of spreading kindness. I've gone up to stores, or I've gone up to waitresses, and I just see it light up their face. I go up to people. I saw this lady. She was sitting there. I felt so bad for her. It was at the Children's Museum, and she was vacuuming. And every time she vacuumed, the kid came over with stuff and just threw it. And I'm like, this poor woman. And she would just kind of get up and this one kid it was like, "You cleaned it up just for me." I went over to her and I said, "Hey, excuse me. And she was like, "What?" And I said, "I just want to let you know, I've been watching you. You're doing an awesome job today." She was like, "Thank you. Thank you so much." We are human beings, not human doings. We do not need to be applauded for what we do. We need to be celebrated for who we are. And every one of us deserves kindness. My job, my prayer, my role in this church is to help each of us be humans that spread kindness. That reminds people we are children of God before we are anything else. Here, verse 6 is where Paul now says his sponsoring role. He says, "For this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God." Fan into flame the gift of God. Work on this gift. Move on this gift. Put energy into it. Fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of my hands. Paul is establishing that he was not only a mentor, he wasn't just a friend, but he was a sponsor. I laid my hands on you. And this term, laying on of hands, is simply a public acknowledgement of someone's gifts and calling. So what Paul is saying is, remember, I publicly celebrated you in front of everyone. I told people this is the guy. I publicly lifted you up. I promoted you. Live up to what I saw. This is a sponsoring relationship. Live up to what I believed. Live up to what I saw in you. So all three aspects of the discipling relationship is seen here. Paul and Timothy display all three: mentoring, sponsoring, spiritual friendship. And then we see the fourth one, this idea of multiplication. We've already gotten echoes of it through the generations that have come. But listen to what he says here in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2. "And the things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses." Listen, Paul is saying, you've been exposed to me. You've been around me. You see me do it in public. Whatever you've experienced with me, here's what I want you to do. Entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others. I want you to check this out. Listen, Paul is saying, you've experienced it with me. Now, go trust other people the way I've trusted you. I saw something in you. I lifted you up. I walked with you. I encouraged you. I challenged you. So now go do it with someone else. But when you do it with someone else, let them know that you expect them to do it with someone else. You see? Entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others. So go do it with someone else who will teach someone else who will teach someone else. Multiplication. A multiplying relationship. This is what a discipling relationship is all about. As our pianists come up to set the emotional tone so that you can hear clearly what I'm calling you to do, I want you to understand something. A New Day, we believe that one life can flip another. But my prayer is not that you just get into a relationship, but that you get into relationships that multiply. If you look under your seats right now, you all have cards. Just grab it. It has the power of one under it. Each of you should have a card. And on that card, you're gonna see a set of questions, a set of steps, a set of phases. It simply says, hey, your job is to find one person. Get together with them at least once a month. Ask, inquire, pray. And I know that there are those of you who signed up already, so I'm so excited. But I know in typical traditional church terms, most of you might think that I'm going to set it up for you. I'm going to set up these relationships. We're going to get a bunch of people together and, you choose this person, you choose that person. We actually trust the Spirit of God here. Hello? I believe the Holy Spirit has your person already in mind. Some of you are already in this relationship. You're already gathering together. You're already connecting with someone. And perhaps if you're already doing this, now it's time to invite someone else. The reason why it has to start with two is because you're never going to know how to bring someone else in if you have never experienced it. So you've got to start with each other. Paul started with Timothy. And then he said, Timothy, go do it with someone else. If you're looking at how do I do this, what steps do I take, I invite you to text us. There's a number right here. Text this number. Sign up, join in, say, look, I want in. I want in. I want in. For those online, that number is 888-413-3651. You can text us anytime you're watching this. The beautiful thing about those of you who are online, you can watch this anytime. I was getting texts yesterday because someone had just watched it. You can text us anytime. We'll respond. We want you to be part of this. We're trying to see what does it look like if each of us had one person that we can flip. So go ahead. If you look at the card, it's ask, how is each other doing? Inquire, how about spiritually? How is it looking? Share a plan. Here's what we're going to do together. I'm going to ask you about this later. And then pray for one another regularly. It's a discipling relationship. It's a thing that we believe can change the world. We want everyone to be a part of this. As the band comes up, I want to let you know one last thing that Jesus said. I think it's important for us to understand that this isn't just a cool gesture. It's not just a nice sermon. It's not just a nice message. This is just his command. Listen to what he says in John chapter 13, verse 34. Listen to this. a new command I give you. What is it? What? Love one another. It's a command. Did you realize that? And do you know why he had to command you to do it? Because it's not easy. Hello? He commanded you because he knows it would be hard. This morning I said to Noah, Noah, please pick this up and bring it to mommy. Wouldn't do it. Noah, please pick this up, bring it. No, wouldn't do it. All right, Noah, well, you got one more chance before you go in timeout. Didn't do it. So we had our timeout time. I sat down and said, you know what timeout is for? Timeout is so you to take a break so you can think about what just happened. Let's think this through. Why didn't you do it? What Daddy asked you to do? I didn't want to do it. Fair. Fair. Honey, I know you didn't want to do it. That's why I'm telling you to do it. Because I understand things a little bit better than you. I'm a grown-up. No. I'm a big kid. I'm going to be a grown-up soon. Not that soon, buddy. I understand things a little bit better than you. So you have to trust mommy and daddy because there are things you don't understand that I understand. We've got to trust God. God calls us kids. Trust him. He's not a liar. It's not a metaphor. It's a reality. When God commands you to do something, it's because he understands something you don't. He says the only way to fully grasp what I'm asking you to do is to love people that are not lovable. Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Jesus' invitation was never, come hang out at this program, come hang out at this event, come hang out at this church. His invitation was, come and live with me. Come and see, come and be, come and connect. It was a personal invitation into his life. He got invited to a wedding and he had plus 12. He invited them into life with him. And he says, we must do this. Look at what verse 35 says. The reason why we must do this is because that's the only way the world believes that Jesus is real. By this, everyone will know that you are my passionate followers if you love one another. If you do not love one another, the world will think you're a hoax. If there isn't discipling relationships in this place, the world will not believe that you're about the next person. If everyone that walks in here doesn't feel that someone is crying out to God for them, then they will not truly believe that Jesus is real, because only Jesus could make people who don't even know each other love each other. Only Jesus can take black people and white people and put them in the same place and love each other. Only Jesus can take Republicans and Democrats and make them love each other. Only Jesus can take drug addicts who are now leaders in our community and make them love one another. Only Jesus does that. Only Jesus takes people who are far away on the opposite spectrum of each other's ideologies and make them sit in the same room and love one another. I want this place to be that kind of church. I want this to be the best place for anyone on a spiritual journey.